Hi and welcome again to Racecraft. This time we're doing a little bit of EFI, but not what you think. This is a S13 Nissan Silvia, and years ago I put a V8 in it. Since then it's changed hands a couple of times and the motor's been freshened up, the manifold's been changed and a few other things. When I originally set the car up, we had multi-point fuel injection, so an injector for each cylinder. So what would probably seem like a bit of a backward step, taking the 8 injectors out of the manifold, and I'm going to the Fitech throttle body injection. Now that may seem like a bit of a backward step to go from port injection to throttle body injection, but there's a good reason for it. If you've watched Richard Holdner or Engine Masters or a few of those other things on YouTube, what you'll have probably noticed is that most engines end up making more power with a carburettor than they do with EFI. That's ignoring drivability and starting and fuel economy and everything else. But carburetors are still pretty good at making horsepower. One of the reasons that they make power is because you've got wet fuel going through the entire manifold, which means you have in the manifold intercooling. So the liquid fuel helps to cool the manifold, helps to cool the intake charge, and gives you better volumetric efficiency. So they make a little bit more power. Now, because this is a racing car, we're not really interested in fuel economy. We're not interested in how it idles and would drive on the highway. What we're looking for is peak power, and I'm pretty sure this is going to give us our peak power. Now, one of the other problems that this car had was when the engine got rebuilt, somebody decided to change the injectors to these injectors with tiny little holes in them. I don't know if you can see that there, but they've got a series of teensy little holes instead of one single pintle. Now the problem with that is that on this Edelbrock Super Victor Junior manifold, it means the injector has to fire down quite a long hole which shrouds the fuel in. And when I took this manifold off quite a while ago, what I witnessed inside was how wet the manifold had been, where liquid fuel had actually been running down inside the manifold. So that's probably hurt throttle response. So if you hurt throttle response, that hurts power out of corners and so forth. So the hope here is that with the Fitech, we'll have good punch out of the corners, we'll make a little bit more power. So I'm pulling all the original wiring out for the Wolf computer that was in it. It had this big throttle body on it, which was well and truly big enough. All the injectors out, I'll plug the holes in the manifold, get it all wired up, put the oxygen sensor in the exhaust, and we'll see how it goes. Now, because the previous system wasn't self-tuning, and now we've got self-tuning, means it doesn't have to go to the dyno. So each time I've done an alteration on this manifold that originally had a dual plane manifold on it, it had to go to the dyno when we put the single plane on it. Each time there's the expense of going to the dyno. So with the self-tune, it eliminates expensive dyno tunes. So that's another big advantage in having one of these self-tuning systems on there. All right, we'll have a look down into the holes where these injectors were, and you'll be able to see that's quite a little tunnel, quite a long way down inside. So we'll just bring the camera over here and have a look down inside the hole, and you can see that's quite a long tunnel for the fuel to have to shoot through. So that's one of the things we're going to eliminate by putting this Fitech throttle body on it. Alright, so we're ready to give her a start up. It's pretty loud, being a race car, the exhaust is almost open, but here we go. Okay, so our next step now is just to synchronise the timing between what's on the crank and what's on the hand controller, so I'll do that. And after that, really it's trip to the racetrack. I think what we might do is we might try and run it up on the dyno, just that we can't drive it on the street. Not so much to tune it, because it is self-tuning, but to be able to run it on the rollers so we can put it through all its load and everything, make sure that there aren't any little glitches in it or anything like that. So that's about it for this episode. Thanks for tuning in. We've just bolted the car up for the dyno, so we'll give it a run and see what sort of power we make. And we'll see how quickly the Fitech self-tunes itself. That's the main reason we're here, is just to populate the entire map and get the car running really nicely. Given it a good run, we've gone right through the rev range. It was amazing to watch the Fitech just tune itself all the way through. We wanted 12.6 to 1 gear-fuel ratio, and it's given us exactly what we wanted. So now it's basically ready for the track. So thanks again for tuning in.